Hey, how's it going? It's Craig. I'm out in the garage and today we have a new bit of kit for the garage. Let's take a look. Okay, so you can probably see from the title of this video that it's a soldering station that I bought for the garage, and I've been needing one of these and it's been on my watch list on eBay for, I don't know, probably 8 months, if not longer than that, and I've just held off buying one for ages and ages, getting on with what I've got so far. So I've currently got a stack of soldering irons. So I've got these 4 what I would call direct heat soldering irons. They're the ones that plug and play. They're the type of soldering iron you have in school when you're doing DT. You literally plug them in, they heat up to whatever temperature they fancy heating up to, and you solder with that. They're not bad. They're good for the hobbyist and good for getting into soldering. That one's not a bad soldering iron. You've got the replaceable tips on there. That one's a pretty decent one as well. But they're basic. They are the basic of basic soldering irons. Then from that I went and bought, probably about 1.5 years ago, a mini soldering station. So this is from Lidl's, I think. So it's Lidl's Parkside make, and it's their electrical make that they do everything from bloody leaf blowers right the way through to air guns and everything else they do for air compressors and that. So I've had this for a while now. The temperature on this goes up to 450 degrees, which is probably too hot for a lot of soldering, but what I found with it is that I don't think it's super accurate, because to do most of the soldering I want to do, I've got to crank this right up to 450 just to get some heat out of the tip on it. So it's okay, it does the job. You can, and I've got a couple of different tips for it as well. This one's looking really ropey and rough at the moment. You can replace the tips on it. It's a good, if you're just getting into soldering and things like that, it's okay. It'll do the job for most of your basic pieces of soldering. But the issue with all of these is that they've got their limitations. I'm not going to buy any kind of super high-end soldering station. Some of them rack up to many hundreds of pounds, if not into the thousands of pounds as well, and I just don't need it for that. I am a hobbyist. I do things for my own enjoyment. I don't do it for selling on or anything else. I do it just at the moment for me to have a play around with. Okay, so that little one that I've had for probably, I'm guessing, over a year now, has done most of my projects up to date. So if you can watch back on my projects, I've done everything from Game Gear recaps. I've done, what else have I done with soldering? The Xeno GC chip that I did last week, all with that soldering iron. It's okay, it'll do it, it'll do the soldering, and as you can see, some of those things are quite small solder points, but it's not ideal. If you're just getting into soldering and things like that, get one of them, they're perfect, unless you've got a little bit of money to put aside for the kit that I'm going to open today. So let's open it up, take a look at what I bought. Again, it's only a hobbyist one. It's not into the hundreds of pounds or thousands of pounds that you can spend on soldering stations. But I thought it was a little bit more advanced and a step up from those basic soldering irons. Okay, so this is my package. I ordered it from Amazon rather than eBay or anywhere else. I'll explain a little bit why in a minute. It's the 899D WEP version of this soldering station. There's so many different versions out there. There's another company called Yeeha, I believe it's called, Y-E-H-A, Yeeha, and they make very similar systems. I don't know whether they're part of the same company, the same factory, and they make the same ones, but all the bad reviews I've seen are the Yeeha ones. The WEP ones don't seem to have as many bad reviews. I have seen issues with all soldering stations, whether it's one of these ones or whether it's a little bit more expensive ones, and it's normally down to overuse. If you're a hobbyist and you're using it for little bits here and there, then they seem to go for a long time. If you're using it all day every day, then you probably want to be spending on the really expensive ones. For what I need, this is probably going to be fine. So I bought the 899D. I'll open it up now. As you see, made in China. The 899D looks the newer model, and it looks a little bit more compact, so I've got a bit more space on my bench when I'm working. Let's open it up and take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got. We've got the 899D 2-in-1 WEP soldering station. The hot air gun is attached to it with a pretty decent quality cable. So they all feel very rubberized, and they're not cheap at all. Nothing on this feels cheap. This is a nice steel quality system. For the money, I can't believe the quality on it, to be honest. So I'm just going to start taking things apart. The cable is a decent length. I'll see if I can get it all on camera, and I'll measure that now, just so you know roughly the length on it. So if I measure that right there, it's about a metre long, I'd say, by the time you extend that out. So a metre cable on your hot air gun. I'm guessing the same on your soldering iron as well, so we'll have a look at that one. So the soldering iron is detachable, hot air gun is wired in permanently. So yeah, decent length cable on there. Let's put it together. Lay it down there. Yeah, got about a metre length on that as well. So this obviously just pops into here. So attaching the soldering iron is pretty straightforward by the look of it. Got a little groove towards there, and then the groove goes towards the top of this. Plug it in, and screw the fastener so it holds it nice and tight. Okay, so that's nice and tight now. Cool. Okay, so with our soldering iron attached, we can move these parts out of the way, move the plug out of the way for a second, and then our soldering iron fits in there quite nicely. Got a sponge for the bottom for cleaning the tip once it's done. Again, nice quality soldering iron stand. It all feels pretty decent quality. It doesn't feel like it's going to bend out of shape anytime soon, and with obviously the heat going into this, that feels like it's going to last a little while. Let's take a look at the tips next, see what we've got in here. Anything I can see so far being a pain is the length of the cable and how you set it up. I'm going to have to find somewhere decent to set this up on my desk. Okay, so let's take a look at the bag of air attachments first for the air gun. I've not used the reflow station before, so this is going to be a new piece of kit for me to use, and I can't wait to use it because it's going to be so much easier for taking things off of boards. So the first one is a really chunky square connector. I'm guessing that's for large components on the board, maybe even taking exact chips off and things, but maybe you can put it straight over the top of it to direct the heat straight onto it. Not sure how often I'll be using that one. Next one, let's get them all out so I can go inside. So there's loads of screws and bolts in here as well. So the next one is a large cylinder one. So that is probably, let's measure it up for you so you've got a bit of an idea. That's 10mm, so 1 centimeter width on that head of that one. So it's a pretty chunky connector for that, so that's not going to direct your heat directly onto individual components on a quite a small PCB. The next one is this one, and that one is 5mm, so 5mm, half a centimeter. Again, that's probably going to be the one that I'm using the most. From what I've seen about reflow stations, you want to balance the heat and the airflow quite nicely, and this final one, which is a really tiny piece, so that one is about 3mm, so that one is really small. The issue I've heard with this one is that the heat is great, but the airflow is because it's so concentrated, you end up blowing the components off the board with it. So that's the 4 heads you get with it. Obviously you can use the heat gun as it is without anything on there. So if you've got quite a big area to do for maybe shrink wrapping and things like that, then that would probably be fine on its own. Okay, so fitting the ends to the heat gun are quite simple. You literally just slot it on, then you tighten up this nut and bolt as I just showed you, and what was supplied with it as well. The only negative I can think of then is that if you start with the wrong size and you want to change over, you're going to have to wait for this to cool down before you can take it back off. Otherwise you're going to have quite a hot piece of metal that you're taking on and off of the heat gun. But from what I've seen, these heat guns do cool down very quickly, and as long as you're using, obviously you're not going to be taking the bolt and nut off totally, you're just going to slacken it off so it removes. And they do cool down very quickly, so I don't think that's going to be a major problem. And the more use you get out of this, the more you're going to have probably a favourite tip that you're going to be using anyway. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'm not going to be using that one first. I think I'm going to be using the middle 5mm as my setup. So I'm going to start with that one on there. I'm going to put the bolt and nut into that one and tighten it up, and that's the one we're going to give us a trial in a minute. Cool. Okay, so next up, let's take a look at the soldering tips that we come with it. So it's a decent selection. There's one already on the soldering iron, which has got a safety tip on the top of it, probably to stop it from damaging anyone while they're in transit. Let's try and show you that next to a master system case. So that one's a really fine tip. It looks like we got two of the really fine ones, the one that's on the original soldering iron and the one that goes next to it. Then we got two mediums, and then we got two slightly thicker tips. No chisel tips or anything else in here. These are all soldering tips, and they're all pointed ones. The good thing is to swap these out is fairly straightforward. We can unscrew the neck of the iron, the barrel comes off, the tip then slides off. Again, you want to be doing this when it's cold, not when it's hot. Slide on your new tip, then slide on your barrel and screw it back in place, and then we're done. So the good thing is with that is you can buy these tips online from other suppliers. They're probably fairly standard sizing, and you'll be able to swap that out with chisel tips and other things that you want in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the medium one just for my benefit. I don't need the super fine connection, and I don't want the really fat one, so that one seems about right for what I want to be working on. There we go. So we're upgraded to the medium tip. Nice. So both of those things is pretty straightforward. There's one other thing I forgot to mention, and it's this crocodile clip. So I'm guessing this is an earthing cable. So you can unwind it. On the back of the unit, I'll take a look over the unit in a second before we do plug it in. There's a connector for this. We can plug that in there, and then you've got an earth for your soldering going forward then. So that's pretty cool as well. I've not seen any come with that kind of cable either. So the 899D model, that must be a new piece that they're shipping with it. So that's pretty nice. Okay, let's take a look over the unit, then we'll power up. Okay, so I've removed the soldering iron just so we can move this a little bit freer. Let's take a look over the front of it first. So as we can see, it's the WEP 899D 899DI 2-in-1. Again, I didn't do a massive amount of research into this, but I could see this was quite a small, neat unit, and I didn't want something taking up the whole bench when I was working. Rather than having lots of dials on here, it's got the two screens for the temperatures for the hot air and for the soldering iron. It's got up and down toggle switches on here, as well as a single dial in the middle for your airflow, I think it is. Again, I don't know what all these buttons do at the moment, so we're going to find out what they do. We've got two individual power switches at the bottom of this. Obviously that's where our soldering iron connects. Onto this side, it's got the mounting already on there, and this has got a magnet in there from what I heard. All of these soldering stations have the mounting magnet inside of there, and then when you put your hot air gun onto it, there's a switch inside of this that turns the heating element off, but keeps the airflow on there to cool it down quite quick. So that fits on there quite nicely. As you can see, it sits quite nice above the desk height, and holds in there fairly securely. That's not going anywhere really. Yeah, so that's pretty neat. Quite like that. Again, nice solid build. screws, those two on the top seem quite loose. I don't know whether that's for mounting something, maybe mounting the soldering iron base, I'm not sure. All the others seem to be screwed in nicely. I'll see if I can find out what those two are for in a minute. Let's take that off and have a look at the back, because this is where all the extra parts are. So we've got a cooling vent there, we've got a fuse, I believe. I'm guessing that's a fuse in there. This is the connector I was showing you earlier for your crocodile clip. So our crocodile clip earth can go into there, plug our earth in. Oh, it's hard to do left-handed. Plug your earth in one-handed, and then your crocodile clip comes around the other side. I don't know whether you can use this as a bit of a heat transfer. I'll look into that as well. Power cable and your on-off switch on the back of this as well. The details there, I don't know what these are. So basically just telling you your rated power for your rework station, 899DI, 240 volts version. Cool. So that's that side. Let's pop that back out and then look at the other side. So this one's pretty basic. It's got two screws there, two screw holes there if you'd rather flip your workstation over to the other side, I'm guessing. If you're left or right handed and you want to swip it over. Screws on these are all screwed in nice and neat, so I'm guessing those two on the top are for something that if you'd like to add something onto it. I'll see if the instructions give me any indication of that in a minute. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so what I've noticed now is that there is a screw hole here and a screw hole just inside there, and they match up with those two screws on the top of this unit, so you can actually mount the soldering iron to the top of it. I'm going to give that a go just so I can demonstrate how it looks and works with it mounted, but I think in reality I'm going to keep it loose just so I've got a little bit of flexibility around where I mount my iron, and I don't have to keep putting it back on the top of this all the time. But just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to put that on quickly. Okay, so I've now fitted the soldering iron mount to the top of it. I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep that there full time or not, but it's quite nice. It's all in one unit now, and just to give you a bit of an idea of size, the unit itself is 9.5 centimeters with 95mm wide. With the holder on there, it's about 15.5 centimeters, so 155mm. Height, just the base unit on itself, is about 14 centimeters, so 13.5 centimeters, 135mm. With that on top of it, and including the soldering iron, you're looking at about 30 centimeters height clearance. So it's pretty tight once you've got all the elements on top of it and the cables for the soldering iron on top as well. But actual unit size is pretty small. As I said, it's 9.5 wide by 14 height by, let's get depth on that, about 15 centimeters long. So it's a pretty neat small little unit. There's a bit of a comparison just in the background. You can just about see it on this video. I've got a Mega CD or a Sega CD and a Mega Drive, or a Genesis if you're US. Just to compare it on size wise, it's not far off the height of this unit. Without the Master System converter on top of it, it's about the same height. It looks very similar as well, so I'm quite tempted to put this down the side of it, but I don't want to. My main issue is that I don't want to put anything that's too hot next to any of my systems or underneath a shelf. So I probably will store it there, but I'll bring it forward when I'm using it. Yeah, so let's power it on and see what we get. I need to find a old circuit board that we can test it out on, because I don't want to do it on any of my live projects to start with. I want to get used to how the power flows and the airflow and everything else before I start on live projects. So yeah, I'm going to find a board that we can work on and power it up and take a look. Okay, so it took me a little while, but I found a board with quite a few nice little components on there that I want to test the hot air and solder on it. So this is an old Apple MacBook Pro charger. I'm going to try and take off some of these components using hot air and use the soldering iron and see how the solder flows and everything with it. So let's power this up. I've not powered it up at all yet, so move things out of the way. There's power switches are on the back somewhere. I plugged it in. Okay, so let me move that towards you. So we've got a couple of flashing lights. These are both off at the moment. So let's first of all try, and I'm not going to use it on the board straight away, I'm going to just see what we get with the temperatures and things. So let's try the hot air first of all. So it's set to 300 degrees, I'm guessing that, oh, that's the flow, isn't it? So if I put that to the middle for now, you can set it to whatever temperature you want. Let's see how high it goes. Wow, 480. Okay, so it's going to go up to 480 degrees. I don't want it anywhere near that. I think solder melts at around 220. So I'm going to put it to about 300 to start off with. And as soon as I pick this up, you can hear the hot air starts flowing. And then this is the temperature of the actual thing. So we've gone already up to 300 degrees there. That's amazing how fast that's just heated up. If I put that back into the holder, you can see the temperature's dropping really quickly, but the fan's still going because that's cooling it now. So it must go down to 100 and then turns off. So that's pretty cool. So that's that side working. I'm going to power that off and then power on my soldering iron. And again, let's see what this goes up to. So set at 300. Wow, this is going up high as well. 480 on that one as well. So I wouldn't want to be using my soldering iron at 480. I would, again, my old soldering iron I was using at 450, but not getting the heat right down to the tip. So I'm going to set this one down to 350. These buttons are nice. So that should start heating up my soldering iron now. There we go. There you go, so that only took a couple of seconds to get up to 350 degrees. So that is now at soldering temperature. Okay, so there's a bit of a test. I'm going to try and remove this capacitor. I'm going to use the hot air on this option, and this is what I meant about the cable for the soldering iron is already getting in my way. So I think I am going to take that mounting plate back off the top of there. So let's turn on the hot air. I'm going to set it to 300 on our settings, and I'm going to put the airflow down to about quarter of a way through. So I don't want it too aggressive to start off with, so I'm going to try that with quarter of the airflow and hot air running. So I'm heating up, and right, I'm already at 300 degrees there. I'm going to put the airflow up to half. No, that's absolutely solid. Okay, I'm going to go up to 350 degrees now. So we're at 350 with the airflow set to about halfway through. Okay, so there we go. So that's come off now. So that took about a minute or two on 350 heat for that capacitor to come off. I'm going to pop that aside, pop this back onto its rack, and that heat is dropping down immediately. So there's no flux on that at all, and I took it up to 350 and halfway on the airflow, and it came off eventually. It took a little while to come off, but it did come off. So I'm going to find another capacitor which is similar to that, and I'm going to try it with a higher temperature to see how long it takes to take another one off. Okay, let's have a look over the board and see if we can find something. Okay, so we're going to remove another capacitor now, and I'm going to put the heat up and I'm going to put some flux on it. So that's our original one we just removed, and this one we're going to take off now. The good thing to note on this is we've got two nice clean pads on that with the solder still on them, so we haven't taken a pad off or anything else, which is exactly why I wanted to use a hot air station for my work. So this is just solder, almost like paste. It's not the best one. My soldering pen, my flux pen is it's got liquid in there, but it doesn't come out as well, very well anymore. So we're going to do that one now, and as I said, let's get our heat gun up to temperature. So we're going to put that up to 450 this time. Okay, so I've got that set up to 450 and it's at 350 now. It's heating up and we're up to 450 already. I've got it on halfway on the airflow, so I'm guessing as soon as I put this to this contact now, I'm going to see that flux melt straight away, and we're going to start working on it straight away. I'm going to try and move it this way so it's a bit easier for me to get access. Okay, so there goes the flux. That's melting pretty quick. Okay, so that's come off. I'll pop that aside a second, and then I'm going to turn my temperature right down. I'll turn my gun off. Okay, so you can see that we've got two nice pads remaining now where I've just removed that. For my ability and to just test out this iron, I'm going to pick this capacitor back up. As you can see, the size on it is minute. I'm going to try and reflow that back on to that point. What I'm going to do is add a little bit of flux. I'm going to heat it up, and then I'm going to pop it in place with the tweezers and see if I can reflow that into place, because that's one of the biggest things I'm going to be doing with surface mount stuff for myself, is changing over these capacitors, removing these capacitors. So it's a good test for me to do that. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to just put a blob of flux on each side just to get a bit of flux on there. Okay, so that's nice and covered in flux. I'm going to heat this soldering heat gun back up. I'm going to take it up to 450. Okay, so we're heating up. Tweezers, my capacitor in. Might see if I can twist this. Hopefully you can still see it. Okay, so this is our capacitor point where we're going to put it, and I'm going to put this capacitor back on. Okay, so we're up to temperature. We've got our flux on our points now, and I'm going to get my minute little capacitor, and I'm going to pop that roughly in place, and then I'm going to add some heat. Okay, so while that heat gun's cooling down, as you can see, that was a bit messy. That was a little bit trickier than I thought it was going to be, and I realised that I wasn't heating the solder too much. I was heating the capacitor, but once I heated that solder up and got it into place, it just fell into place then. I'm going to need a lot more practice on this, so this is why I'm glad I got a practice board like this. So this is my first time ever doing any heat resoldering, so that was pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out, but still I've got loads of work to do on this and loads of practice to be had. Okay, so I've got my soldering iron. I've just tinned it, and I've tinned the wire just so it's got a little bit of solder on it. I'm not going to use any flux on this one just to try it out, and then we'll use it with some flux and things in a bit. So I'm just going to try and tack this onto this connector here. So this is set to 350 on heat. Yeah, and that's gone on really nicely. Don't need any extra heat on that. My other iron would have taken easily 400 on that. So let's get another wire. I'm going to tin this one as well. I'm just going to tin the wire. This time I'm going to put a tiny little bit of flux on the connector next to it. Well, it's a lot of flux because okay, that's got some flux on it, and I'm going to pop this wire onto that one there. So okay, so those two went on pretty neat. The only thing I added was solder to the tip of the iron and tinned the wires. I didn't need to, and they're on solid, so you can see that I can lift it up by those wires and it's not coming off. So yeah, that's two nice solid connections. Heat of 350 easily on my old iron. The tip was a lot bigger, and I didn't have any smaller tips. That I had a couple of different tips, but they weren't that small. This is the medium tip from that set, and it's worked perfectly. So yeah, I'm really chuffed with it. I'm really happy that I bought this unit now. It's going to give me a lot of confidence to rework a lot of the systems that I've got going. I've got a Game Gear muck wheel screen that I want to do, and I feel so nervous about doing it that I put it off for ages doing it, and this system will allow me to do it a lot neater. I'm just going to clean up this soldering iron, get the solder off the end of it, and then we'll do a wrap up. Cool. Okay, so there we have it. That's the WEP 899D Mark 1. Bought it on Amazon. As I said, I paid it for it last night on Prime, and it came this morning. So one of the main reasons I bought it on Amazon is I'm so impatient, and I didn't want to buy it on eBay and then it take weeks to turn up because it's coming from China or somewhere else. So at least on Prime I knew I was going to be here the next day. The other reason is that I've seen mixed reviews on all of these. Some people say that the hot air gun handle melts. I've seen that from excessive use. There's a couple of YouTube videos where people have said failure of the system and everything, and the guy said, oh, I was using it for like 10 hours straight and then it melted. I'm like, I understand that. It's not a pro unit, it's a hobbyist unit, and that is fine for me. I'm not going to be out here for hours and hours soldering. I'm going to be out here doing one project, a couple of capacitors, a couple of things at a time. I'm not going to be using it for hours on end. I had a look on Amazon for soldering unit stations, and this one came up, and it seemed to be the best one that I could find for the money. So it was $69.99. Had a look on eBay as well, and the 899D, I can only see the Mark IIs on there, and they're about £95 to £100. So I actually don't think that was a bad price. So $69.99. You can get cheaper soldering stations. You can get them for anything from about £45 up. They're bigger units, they're more chunkier, they're going to be taking up a lot more desk space. I quite like the size and the style of this one with the buttons to go up and down in the temperature. How it fares out, I don't know, but that's the other good thing about buying it from Amazon rather than eBay, is that I know that I've got a 12-month guarantee with this. Anything goes wrong with it in 12 months, I can send it back to Amazon, and it's their problem, they've got to look after it. Whereas eBay, you're pretty much lucky to get a return the day after you bought it. So yeah, that's pretty good. So now I've got a load of projects lined up that I want to use it on. I've got a Game Gear muck wheel screen to do, which is pretty tricky. I've got a couple of other projects that I want to be working on, so that are going to be using surface mounting items. So I've never done much surface mounting items before. I've taken things off with a soldering iron, and it's a little bit fiddly. Even things like doing HDMI ports and all that, it's going to be so much easier having a hot air station rather than a soldering iron and trying to do it with braid and everything else. This is going to be such a nice experience going forward, so hopefully you'll see that in the quality of my videos going forward. As I say, I'm just a hobbyist, I'm not a pro soldering guy. I do a lot of retro mods and things in my channel if you've just checking out the review of this system. Please subscribe if that interests you. I'm going to be using this unit going forward, so if you are interested in seeing how it performs, then obviously subscribe to my channel, take a look. Any questions you've got about it, drop them in the comments down below. More than happy to help where I can. I'm not going to be an expert on this unit obviously because it's day one, I've just picked it up now, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with it so far. Thanks for watching, and I shall catch you soon. Cheers.